two other agenda items that fall within the same facility as this one. This one got approved. This is within the same complex.
That's right.
And the other ones, was there an action taken? It says there was no action taken, so what were those findings? If you guys can clarify why one got approved and the other ones didn't have any action taken.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. This is all part of our Cecilia Cannon Complex, which we previously presented the entire project. But each licensee has to have a development agreement with the city. One of the facilities was previously approved. One was approved at the last planning commission meeting, and the other two that surround it and share the property space, the facility space, were not approved by planning commission. They were continued off calendar.
And what were the reasonings behind that?
The commission wasn't required to make findings for that, but they did in their notes mention that in our direction to staff that they wanted to see a full commission or the new commission that would be taking place after the elections to hear the evidence.
Legal counsel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. As Ms. McGee stated, the matters that are before you, two other matters that are before you, are in the same complex, the same property owner, the same applicant. And there were four other applications that came before you, I believe, 4 months ago, and that were approved as part of this complex as well, from what I understand. So the fact that the two other matters that were continued that were in the same industrial park appeared to be oddly continued because they were very similar in nature, again,
Right.
as the one that was adopted at the Planning Commission on November 19th and is before you tonight. So that's why I believe, and again, we're sort of jumping ahead a little bit, but the city manager and the city clerk's office received letters of request from the applicants whose applications were denied that night, because it did appear to be a little irregular that this matter was approved, the application before you, Old and Rusty. The other two very similarly situated applications were continued. And there didn't appear to be a rational, legitimate land use concern or land use basis for those being continued. And it did appear that it was sort of random, a little arbitrary, that this one was approved, the other two were continued, and other similar applications previously had been adopted by the commission and this council.
Thanks for that clarification. All right, that concludes my comments. Councilmember Sanchez? Comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Was there any dates proposed for the Planning Commission to reconsider these items? My understanding is that they were going to be tabled to be discussed at the next meeting, but staff said that we normally go black, which is kind of contrary because we have a council meeting on the 18th. Their planning meeting would be on the 17th. Another one, I do see that one was approved, 3 of them weren't. Maybe there was additional questions or additional information that was not provided. For example, I normally ask how much money are they going to bring in so we could project how much are they going to, we could project on our budget. Those questions are not really satisfied. Other questions that I know have been brought up is benchmarking. How can we know, or can you tell us or give us data of what, if the numbers that we're charging, 1 to 2% is adequate or benchmark? We don't have that information. Second, now on this staff report, I do see numbers on there, which is the first time that I see projections. On page 75, page 75, it says that this site represents 1.5% of the $490,000 revenue projection, which is only $7,000 that is, we're seeing that the city's gonna get at an annual basis from this project. So my concerns are, first, we said that it was gonna bring revenue to the city and it was gonna bring jobs. Yes, this facility is not being operated.
Boy, Sanchez has gained a lot of weight.
The clause that says that Cudahy residents or jobs, opportunities would be 50% to Cudahy residents, which is 5 jobs. That's awesome. But when we discussed this topic, we were talking about 30, 40, 100 jobs, not 5 jobs per site. So that's a concern. It might not be a land use, right? But there's 13 sites. How many is enough? We need 13 sites just to operate at $66,000 times 13, $800,000. That's too many in my eyes. Land use, we could start pinpointing which ones we want, which ones we don't want. For example, parking, do they have the adequate parking? Do they have the adequate air quality control? I know we say, oh, it's gonna be state regulated. Well, we don't know that, right? We don't know if it's how it's gonna be regulated when the city is gonna be the one that's enforcing it. My other concerns that I have is we didn't give adequate time to the planning commission to make a decision. They didn't make a decision, they just tabled it. They didn't make a final decision that says, hey, you know what, we're gonna indefinitely table this, or we're not gonna approve this. So then you're here appealing these items, which that's what it is, we're appealing this, but yet final action has not been taken. So that's my concern. I heard from special guidance, but I wanna hear from our city attorney, because the city attorney needs to take care of the city and city responsibilities, and I would like their opinion now. You can use my last 10 seconds. Thank you.
And just for the record, this one actually got approved by the planning.
Yes, but she gave a presentation on all four, right?
Got it.
Yes, you did.
And-
You gave a
and,
presentation.
I don't want this to be perceived as a cop-out on any part. I'm prepared to answer questions if folks would like. But for the sake of keeping an orderly record, we are on an item that did properly go before the planning commission. So perhaps we should conclude this item, but I am willing to pick up on Mr. Sanchez's questions on the other. So I would recommend that we keep our comments
I
germane
agree.
to that for now, but I'm happy to answer
Thank
questions.
you. So, yeah, Councilmember Sanchez, this one got approved by the planning.
I do understand that, but this is one component of two others, right? So there's three within that same lot. On Cecilia Street, there's three. One of them were approved, that's why you guys are questioning. Well, how come one of them were approved and the other two weren't? It's arbitrary. Well, maybe they had other questions on how all these were gonna be working together. It's not just, oh, well, they just arbitrarily said, no, we're not gonna vote for these. I think you're underestimating our planning commission and the power that they have and the forethought that they have. So I think we should respect that and push the other ones back. This one's already been approved by the planning commission. We can't do anything. I'm not gonna decide on that. But thank you, Mr. Mayor. My time's out. Thank you very much.
And thank you, council member. I agree with your city attorney. I think we should probably dispose of this matter or address this matter and then address your questions as they pertain to the matters that were continued by the planning commission and are now before you tonight again. So to the extent that we can go ahead and address
Yeah.
questions as they relate to this matter in particular.
Just to make sure we're following the rules of decorum. This one, and I was, why I said, I may be jumping on it. This one got approved, so, this is interesting.
Rules of decorum. Sure.
Councilmember Partridge? Councilmember Gonzalez? Councilmember Hernandez?
He's too busy playing Minesweeper on his phone.
And I'm not sure, Ebony, if you're going to be able to address some of his questions, but I definitely want to address some of them. So obviously he doesn't understand the development agreement and the structure that we have in place, meaning that we have a gross fees revenue projection, correct, which is what we, as a city, we would want the operation to be up and running sooner than later, so that those projectable revenues, which will far exceed the minimal square footage fee, correct? That's essentially what the city would like to see. The square footage fee, if you notice, it's a hybrid, it's either or, whatever is greater. And in other words, if it's the only fee that is actually projectable and can be calculated in the revenues is what is guaranteed, right? So the minimum is the square footage fee, which I believe is like 40-something cents per square foot. And then she can clarify as to what pertains as a qualifying square footage within the actual project. And so then, of course, that is going to be minimal. The reason behind that and the reason why that was put in place is so that, one, we have at least a minimum projectable revenue that can be calculated in the budget. But of course, that is minimal. That is not the goal. The goal is not for them to be non-operating. The goal is to get them up and running so that 2% is actually kicks in when obviously their revenue fees far exceed the square footage fee. Also, another thing you need to account for is the community benefits fund. Each development agreement or each operator, each site has to contribute, I believe, something $60,000 a year regardless if they're operating or not. That goes straight to a separate fund in the general fund that is dedicated to provide additional services for the community. So that means any church, any AA meetings, adult use programs, youth programs, any additional. So that is actually something that needs to be calculated in that. It needs to be a little elaborated a little further. Also, maybe you can, maybe it pertains to the next items, but Special Counsel can kind of go over the Streamlining Permitting Act, the limitations of it, and and the fact that we need to, So if you can touch bases on that and how it was very ambiguous and left kind of up in the air and potentially can expose the city to liability. So with that, I just wanted to clarify, and obviously the Clearing Act and safety, youth safety, etc. Those are my comments.
Thank you.
Liability.
I will go over the fiscal analysis first to address both yours and Councilmember Sanchez's questions. The first is every staff report includes a financial or fiscal analysis section or financial impact section. Every project that we've brought forward to date does include that section. The analysis is prepared by the city's finance director, and the projections are just based off of the current fiscal year. So we're looking at $4,000 or whatever for each particular business. It varies based on square footage, and that's the floor, not the ceiling. So we're saying the minimum projected amount monthly. And since the year is whatever the fiscal year is left, wherever they get approved, that's how that number is divided. And then we also have a chart, it's on page 63, I believe, of your report, that breaks that down in a table and summarizes square footage is the non-operating.
They don't look too
monthly
happy.
Minimum. If the facility is operating, then they're going to pay their gross receipts, which will far exceed that minimum. The goal is to get the operators operating, which is why this city is one of the only, if not the only city that has a non-operational fee. So whether the operators are operating or not, they still pay a fee. The fee is obviously higher because it's based on gross receipts once they become operational. But the city will get revenue whether they're open or not. So that is unique to Cudahy. The other thing that's unique to Cudahy is the development agreement, the community benefit fund, the way that it is structured here. So as you mentioned, Vice Mayor Hernandez, it is annual. Most cities have a lump sum payment, one-time payment. We have an annual payment, $666,667 per operator. So that is how those fees are structured, and that information has been present in every staff report we've brought forward. As far as the jobs in this facility would be 5 because it's a small facility. But we have other facilities that have been approved that are 60 or 70,000 square feet that will have 30 jobs or have projection of 15, 20, 30 jobs. So it does really matter on the size of the facility. For obvious reasons, a larger facility will have more employees than a smaller one. This is also only a cultivation facility, so the impacts to land use and and the environment are not as severe. They don't have as many trucks going in and out or shipments. It's a grow. It's like a garden indoors. So we treated it like we would a nursery or something of that nature. So that is how we get the projections for the job. As far as parking and air quality concerns, those two are addressed in the staff report. We did do a SEEP analysis. That's how we determined that this was exempt pursuant to section 15301. This is a tenant improvement. There is